Well, over the past 3 years, the Jacksonville Symphony and the Florida Ballet have forged a dynamic artistic alliance, collaborating in performances blending sound and movement. Joining me to discuss their latest venture is Roberto Forleo, Artistic Director for the Florida Ballet. Welcome back, Roberto.
Hi, thank you.
And Courtney Lewis, Music Director for the Jacksonville Symphony. Good morning, Courtney.
Hi, Anne. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too. Can you tell us a little bit about how this partnership began in the first place? Was it between the two of you? Was it your institutions?
Roberto, I think that might be best coming from you because
Yeah,
it was one of my colleagues who started the collaboration with you.
correct. Yeah, so we started right before COVID. It was my first year when I joined Jacksonville and the Florida Ballet. So we started with, well, the the collaboration started with Tony Nicol, which is the vice president and the artistic administrator. So from there, then we developed this collaboration, which had a pause during 2 years,
Mm,
r- right?
like everything.
Yes, like our first collaboration was January 2020,
Oh, wow.
and then nothing for
Hmm.
2 years. And then
Hmm.
we started back with Symphony in 60s
Hmm.
in the fall 2022.
And so what was the idea? Was it that there are kind of some communal areas between your audiences? Was it the desire to just sort of build on this, cultural capital that you each have?
Yeah, I think it was the desire to join these two organizations and these two art forms together and bring communities together. So usually, maybe people they go to the symphony not necessarily come to see the ballet and vice versa. So the idea is actually to bring people together in one place and to see beautiful music and dancing.
Yeah. And so that's how it started. Courtney, how's it going? I mean, let's see kind of how it's progressed to this point.
Well, I think just to add to that, one of the things that we really wanted to do was to help the Florida Ballet because what Roberto has achieved in such a remarkably short time is really incredible. This institution that is now producing so many wonderful things, and we really wanted to help and be a part of that. So there have been lots of different productions. Personally, we too have done a symphony in 60 in which we played the Tchaikovsky, a suite from Tchaikovsky, which we was then danced, and we also collaborated at our gala this year where we had members of the ballet dancing alongside some of our numbers. But there have also been complete productions, like a whole brand new production of Dracula, which Roberto choreographed to a selection of different classical musics. And in a couple of weeks, we have another Symphony in 60 coming up, which will focus on the music of Antonin Dvorak, the Serenade for Strings in E minor, which will also be choreographed. And it's a really fascinating process from a conductor's point of view to get to know a piece. But then when you collaborate with dancers, you have a whole extra element to consider because we won't necessarily be going at the tempos that I'm used to conducting the piece because the dancers have got a million things to do in every beat. So the conductor is, for once, not the kind of be-all, end-all dictator of all things musical in this kind of collaboration, and that's a very interesting dynamic, and one from which a conductor can learn a lot because an enormous amount of classical music is based on dance forms. If you go back to some of the earliest instrumental music by Bach, the first orchestral suites, the title of every movement is a dance, a jig or a bourrée, and the
Mm,
influence of dance throughout even abstract forms of classical music that aren't usually danced to is really enormous.
interesting. I mean, where was that thread lost, where it kind of became more about watching a musical performance as opposed to seeing it performed with music or interpreted through dance?
Well, it wasn't necessarily that the music was danced to at the beginning. It's just that composers looked to dance forms to characterize their music,
Mm.
and even up in Mozart and Haydn symphonies, you have a minuet as the third movement, but with Beethoven, it begins to disappear. But even as we go into the 20th century, lots of 20th century composers like Stravinsky and Britten and Prokofiev all reached to dance forms to inspire their music.
Yeah, and so when you're conducting, do you get some additional energy from having the dancers there with you? And I mean, I know you say sometimes it affects the rhythm, but how does it affect your overall kind of?
Well, I'm usually trying not to sort of ogle these gorgeous men who are flying across the stage with no shirts on. No, it does because you're aware of the fact that things have to happen whilst you're conducting,
Yeah.
and often they're behind me, so I don't necessarily see a whole lot, but I can hear, like like a troop of elephants behind me. It doesn't look like a troop of elephants, but it sounds like one behind me. More so in feedback from Roberto when I stop, and particularly in tempo, because often Roberto will have choreographed to a particular recording, which is one tempo, which might not be mine. So there has to be a lot of flexibility in that.
Yeah, and I mean, how do the dancers receive it, Roberto? How do they enjoy performing to a live symphony like this?
I think they love it, and it's something very important for them to do
Mhm.
because it makes your ear much more sensitive
Hmm.
to the music. So you're not just dancing every single time to the same tempo. With the live music, you have it's flexible
Slight variations.
because it's a live concert, and the dancers as well. It's not every night is gonna be the same for the music or for the dancers. They're not gonna dance exactly the same every single night.
And so how do you choose what you're going to perform to? How do you pick the musical selections? And tell us a little bit more. This upcoming one is Dvorak?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to start that one?
Sure. Well, for this one, we were looking into a string orchestra, so we could give a little bit more space to the dancers to perform,
Okay.
because usually we use the full orchestra. So that narrow the choice of music. And I think that Dvorak, it was so beautiful that I thought it was a great choice for this Symphony 60s.
Yeah.
We should say that in Jacobi Symphony Hall, we have a spectacular acoustic classical music hall, not designed for ballet. And we've had a few hairy moments where we've had the full orchestra on stage and dancers have come perilously close to first violins.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we decided that we'd try this time to have a smaller orchestra just to give them a bit more
Yes.
room.
Yeah.
That's exciting. So just in the little bit we have left, tell us, first of all, there is a couple of events in May, May 22nd. There's the Symphony in 60, which is a real popular event, especially among young people. And then there's a matinee performance
Yeah.
on the 23rd.
That's right. So that's the one we were just talking about. That's May 22nd, which is a Thursday. Symphony in 60, which is at 6:30. That's an hour-long performance, and then it's repeated the following morning at 11 o'clock a.m.
All right.
Mhm.
And there are tickets available. jacksymphony.org is the place to get them or to get more information. Courtney Lewis, Roberto Forleo, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you.